Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome into the Graham Lincoln Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Graham Lincoln Mac Lane. If you can't tell, Mac and I are wearing our SMU colors, our blue,
Hey,
our red. This one, not exactly, but you know what I mean. Mac has on his SMU rowback swag. We're talking SMU, Penn State. Mac, we have some great guests. I am really pumped for this game.
I'm really pumped for this game as well. And I think the reason I'm the most pumped is because I get to wear this beautiful sweatshirt right now.
That is sick.
And yeah, and there's nothing, there's no ramifications for it. It's all good. It's all good. I kind of made the joke that I've never, ever, never purchased another team's swag before, but I had to get this. I bought it. I had to. I love it. It's beautiful, and it's a cool deal. And I think I'm going to be able to wear it a lot. I think I'm going to be able to celebrate the ponies and the SMU Mustangs there a good bit, and it's fantastic. So SMU fans, Christmas is here. You're waiting very long, very close, but go get your Christmas shopping done. They have great polos for SMU. Another great hoodie. I think it's the Triple D, which is fantastic. So go check that out. Rowback.com. Use our code GMPOD. Save you some money. And of course, there's other great stuff too. So you can load up. Not just SMU fans. Anybody watching, you can do your thing, KG.
Exactly. I actually, Mac, this may be controversial. I think if I was a man and I was picking between these two male sweatshirts, I would go with the Triple D one. That one is sick to me.
I get it. I get it. This is low key. I like the horse. Amelia loves Nene, so she's all in. This honestly, she picked it. So, whether it's Renegade, or Peruna, whoever, she's all in with the horse. She's all in.
We love that. Amelia is actually an SMU fan. So we do have some great guests on today with us. We've got Jonathan McGill, the SMU safety, who was just fantastic. Really
Where
enjoyed
did he
talking
rank?
with him.
I mean, is he top 5? Is he top 5 interviews all time?
I
He
think
was
so.
good.
I mean, he was so good, Mac. Like
Yeah.
that guy, we hung up with him and I said to you, I was like, Mac, what does he want to do? Because he could literally do anything when he's done playing
Stanford
football.
degree, probably a master's from SMU. He's going to play for 10 plus years in the league.
Right.
Whatever he wants to do.
I know he's going to play, but he said both of his parents are pastors, so maybe he doesn't. I mean, he could do absolutely anything. And he actually gave us some really good insight on what the SMU defense is thinking. So we're going to talk with him. And then we have SMU insider, Billy Embody, who is all over it. So let's get to Jonathan, and then we'll get to Billy, and then we'll talk some underdog and some picks on the other side of those interviews.
Jonathan McGill, brother, it is great to see you. What a full circle moment from, way back in the summer. I remember hanging out with you guys and just the excitement, the belief, the confidence, that all of you guys had. And we're on the playoffs, baby. We're making a run. How the heck has it felt, this season, everything that y'all accomplished and where you are today?
I think it's honestly something that we're still really trying to comprehend ourselves. You get so caught up in each and every game being, the most important game of that time and of that week. And so for us, really just, you go from like game 2 to game 10, like in a second, right? And so for us, it was just trying to keep the main thing the main thing. I think we have a personality of our team is very of a team that almost is not a carefreeness, but like a team that enjoys being around each other, a team that regardless of what happens to play before or the game before, or the practice before, like we're still going to come out and still feel like we're the best team in the nation. And so for us, just having an opportunity to play on this stage and to continue to try to chase the dream of winning a national championship, that's just something that we're all loving.
No doubt, Jonathan. We can see that with how you guys play as well. I think it comes through. And I want to ask just where you were, what you were thinking, how you found out that you guys were in the playoff, because there was all this talk, will they put him in, whatever. It was obviously very exciting. So take me through that experience.
So I was actually at church.
I'd love to hear that, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear that.
I had told my parents after the championship game, I was like, yeah, I think we're supposed to land at around 5 or, whatever it was, 5:30, and church starts at 10. So my parents are pastors, so they were going to be at church. And so I told them, I was like, I'll meet y'all at church too. So I was at church, and service starts at 10, gets out at around 11:40, 11:45, and that was kind of when the announcement that came. I didn't know. I wasn't on my phone. My phone was just buzzing in my pocket, and I was like, okay, we're either in or we're not, and there's no in between. And I checked down, and a couple of my best friends that I grew up with from high school all said, like, let's go, like, beat Penn State. It's going to be a crazy environment. And so that's really how I found out.
That's
That's
awesome, man.
amazing.
That's awesome. I love that. That's a great way. It's a great story. And it has been a fun journey. And honestly, I hate that there was even any questions about you guys being in. Your full body of work should have more than been capable and fun and enough. And yet here we are feeling like, we got to give out insurance policies on why SMU is good enough. But here you are, and you have obviously the ability to make this happen. This is a little bit different because it's not really just a Tuesday before a game. You guys have had a week to prepare for this, a week and a couple of days here now. This is obviously a good Penn State team. They run the ball very effectively. They have one of the best, actually award-winning, the best tight end in the entire country. What have you seen from them on film? What kind of challenges are they going to present on Saturday?
I think their offensive coordinator does a great job of keeping defenses on their toes in terms of the shifts, in terms of the motions, in terms of the exotic formations that you're going to see, in terms of just being able to play multiple formations, right? And I think that when you break it down to kind of the root of this team, and I think that this tip of the spear is definitely, Tyler Warren. He's had a great season this upcoming year. You look at the stats, I think he has 88 receptions, where the next near receiving threat is around 30. And so that kind of shows you the capability of him as a pass catcher, but he's Wildcat quarterback. He has thrown, I think, 3 touchdown passes as well, and they have really two good running backs, a 1-2 punch that's going to be that's going to be difficult for us to stop, as well as their quarterback is a talented gunslinger. And so I think when you break it down, I think they're a really talented team. The tip of the spear is the tight end. Stopping Tyler Warren, I think, is the big thing, and obviously stopping the run, which is what Penn State has been known to do for the past couple of years.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, you mentioned that pass catcher, and when he is, when they have a guy that is that big of an outlier, that is, almost triple more than the next guy, what is that a key for you as a safety? And are you making sure, hey, we got to know where this cat is every single play? What does that mean to you, I guess, defensively?
I think so. I know being a safety is in our scheme is really the quarterback of the defense, and so how a quarterback is, and understanding where an elite pass rusher is, or understanding where an elite ball hawk safety is as a defensive player, is the same thing, right? So for me, I try to go into games and really try to understand the person across from me, and that being the offensive coordinator, because at the end of the day, that's the one calling the plays. And so try to compete with him, understand what he likes, what tendencies he does, what routes the tight end runs best or their best player runs best, and where at in the field. And so understanding situational football, I would say, is the big thing at safety. Always understanding where Tyler Warren is, and understanding where an elite offensive threat is, because they're game breakers and playmakers. And so as a defense, you want to limit explosives, you want to stop them in order to give yourself the best chance to win a game.
I like how you said you're trying to get in the mind of the OC. That's a little different. That's interesting. I like how you're breaking that down for us, Jonathan. And overall, you mentioned how they use Tyler Warren in all these different ways, and so you're preparing for a lot of different formations and a lot of different looks that they'll throw at you. Is that kind of nice with these 2 weeks? Like, is this you almost get to dive into more film than you would in just for a weekly opponent?
100%. I would say going back to the season, I want to say anytime after a bye week, I'm pretty sure we played exceptionally well. And
Mm.
so when you have that extra time to prepare, when you have those extra time to really focus on things that can be stressors and things that can present you problems early in the week, so that when you get to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, those things are a lot more crisper and cleaner. And understanding how you want to play things. And so we've experimented with, certain ways, certain coverages we want to play, in certain ways we want to do certain formations, but having kind of that trial and error, to have extra days to figure out, okay, what looks best on film, what are the players comfortable with, what is Coach Thomas comfortable with calling. I think that's very beneficial for us.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, what is the best way to combat that eye candy with motions and different alignments and things like, cause that's for us offensive people, like we're trying to confuse you. We're trying to make sure you tell us what you're doing. How do you guys combat that defensively?
I think really having a veteran group and a mature group is what I would say. Understanding that,
Yeah.
okay, if they give you one formation at the start of the play, you're probably going to get shifts to another motion or to another play. If they're tight, you're probably going to shift that wide. If they're wide, they're going to shift down tight. And really just understanding kind of tendencies and certain formations that have tails. So really trying to evaluate, okay, is there a certain thing that I can look at on this play that's better for me? Because at the end of the day, if you're a tackle and you're giving me a pass set, regardless of what motion is going on, it's going to be a pass. If you're blasting off the ball, it has to be a run. If not, it's going to be a legal man downfield. And so, kind of looking at those tips and tricks to really kind of break down. Okay, there's a lot of motions and shifts, but at the end of the day, is it a pass? Is it a run? And who are they trying to get the ball to?
Yeah, and I think it's funny enough. We spoke to Peter Woods a little bit earlier this week, defensive tackle for Clemson, and he actually pointed out something that I'd never even thought about. You guys are going to be on the road, so the home team's offense will be out there. They're going to try to be quiet. I guess that's way easier for you guys to communicate and to think without having your fans going nuts, berserk, trying to be an advantage to you guys.
Yeah, I love away games, man. Like I love going into an opponent's hostile territory and seeing different venues that each school has their own traditions and stuff like that. But as a defensive player, man, it ain't too bad. Like being on in as long as you limit explosives and don't let them score touchdowns, it's not gonna get too loud. And so just trying to be able to take the crowd out of it because no crowd really wants to see a 3 yard gain, a 3 yard gain, a 4 yard gain, a 3 yard
Yeah.
gain. Right? They came to see touchdowns. They wanted to see the fireworks go off and to do all of their chants and stuff like that. So I love being a defensive player at an away game for sure.
That's a great point, Mac. I was thinking about that too. Just thinking about SMU going to Happy Valley and going to, one of the biggest and loudest stadiums in college football. The other factor here, Jonathan, is we've got a high of 26 is the way it's looking. I think a low of 13. I know you played a few years at Stanford. You're from Texas. Have you ever played football in that type of weather?
Not necessarily, not that. Um, I think at the end of the day, like when you're a competitor and you're a player that loves playing, regardless of the situation or what the circumstances is, like when the whistle blows and you between those white lines, it's time to go. And I think we have a group of guys that's ready for battle. A lot of us are hoping it snows. We've never had a snow game, and so we're praying that it's going to snow. We're ready to play in the elements and really just be able to line it up and play for a meaningful game in December.
You heard it here, Mac. SMU wants snow. They're saying bring on the snow, Penn State.
Yeah.
That's
More
absolutely
difficult.
amazing.
Good.
Yeah. And
That's what we want.
honestly, it would be really cool just from a playoff, like college football perspective. But Jonathan, as I mentioned, you spent your first 4 years at Stanford, right? This is your second year at SMU. And I know you're a Dallas kid, so you're coming back to that area. If someone had told you, all right, Jonathan, you're going to spend your last 2 years at SMU, this is in 2023, and your last, as a super senior, you're going to get to play in a college football playoff. Like, would you have believed them? Is that something you expected? Like, take me through that.
Yeah, I was legit joking about this with my family. I want to say before the Clemson game, I was like, there was no way you could tell me that I would be in this situation in terms of not making a bowl game my first 4 years at Stanford, to being in the conference championship my first year at SMU, to being in another conference championship the next season in a new conference. And so to me, like it's honestly been a Cinderella story, something that I would have not expected. And even the cherry on top, playing in the playoffs. Like I would, if you would have told me probably 2 years ago that would be a 12-team playoff, I would have looked at you crazy. So now, being in the 12-team playoff and being the first team to be in this 12-team playoff in this new model, I think is something that is, I still can't comprehend it. And so we'll see how it feels on Saturday.
Yeah, we're excited to watch it. We can't wait, man. Last one, we'll get you out of here. We're very grateful for your time. People I've done so many different interviews and radio, TV, and talking about SMU, and I've been asked a lot about the staying power and about the expectation and what is the expectation for SMU moving forward. I think this sleeping giant's awake. I mean, it's time to eat. It's time to go. And I think SMU is about to thrive in this environment. Why moving forward, the next 5, 7, 10 years, is SMU going to be a staying power and a national, college power?
I think you kind of see what just happened with Coach Simon signing his extension, with Coach Lashley getting his extension, as well as this 2025 class that they had that came in or that's coming in. I think we're winning at a level, and we're in a power conference. When I was coming out of high school, the only knock on SMU was that it wasn't in a power conference at the time. But in terms of the life after ball, in terms of the resources, in terms of being in Dallas, in terms of having your family and your friends and your coaches and your neighbors come and support you at games, those were all good things. But it was also, okay, I can't play big time level football, quote unquote. Now you're in that, there's not an excuse to not come here for guys that's at, local schools, the Duncanvilles, the DeSotos, the powerhouses of the DFW Metroplex. You see these guys, you got, 3, 4 guys on each team committed here, and they're all ready to come here and play. Not to mention the support we have from, donors and alumni with the huge expansion, the Gary Weber end zone that we had just got. And it honestly came in, I don't even know, like 3, 4 days of just, 4 alums. Okay, let's throw money at this. And boom, we had enough money to start breaking ground. And so I think we're at a very unique place. I think we're at a place to where the alumni, the fan base, the city wants us to have a really good team. And so I think when you have support from the community, when you have support from the staff, and you have talented players, which we have in Texas, and also shout out to Miami. We love our Miami guys. But when you have that talent, you can definitely do some great things. And I think Coach Lashley is the foundation of it. I think Coach Simons is doing a great job with the defense. And I think we recruit the right guys. Coach Grizz does a great job instilling the culture here. And I think that it's just going to go up from here.
Man,
SMU needs to clip that. SMU needs to clip that entire answer you just gave, Jonathan, and put that everywhere. That was fantastic.
Yeah. You're an exceptional player, man, an exceptional young man. It's been a privilege to cover you, and we're excited. We're excited to keep this thing going. Good luck on Saturday, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Stay warm.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
'Twas the day before Christmas, and at the North Pole, the elves were all gleeful, mind, body, and soul. From making to baking, content as you please, when off in the distance they heard a loud sneeze.
Hello, I'm in need of normal human cold medicine. Hello, I'm looking for normal human chicken noodle soup.
And Santa's a go, with Ingles to thank. Merry Christmas from Ingles.
All right, Billy Embody joining us from On3, the SMU insider we had to get on to talk number 11 SMU at number 6 Penn State on Saturday at noon. Billy, before we dive into this game, by the way, I'm looking up a high of 26, a low of 12. So, Billy, I know you are packing your parka, as is SMU. But let's start with kind of just the aftermath of an incredible ACC championship game. I mean, just so exciting, crazy finish, right? And then everybody involved with SMU, people who cover it like yourself, is SMU going to get in? Can you just describe what that was like to see it all go down?
Yeah, I felt personally at the end of the game that SMU was in. Just coming back and battling back. And I know there's always the question of, okay, the machine and, the SEC and, are they really going to put 2 ACC teams in and all that? But I felt like SMU, the narrative from the first half to the second half, turned from, obviously, holy crap, what is SMU doing, to, wow, look at what they're doing to the gold standard of the ACC in Clemson. And, it was a game that came down to, a couple plays right there on the final 16 seconds, and SMU didn't execute, and Clemson was able to kick an unbelievable field goal to win it. And I felt like at the end of the game that SMU was in. They had shown that they can play with anybody in the country when they execute their game plan, when they play their game. And much of what they'd shown the entire season, I felt like, since BYU in particular, making the change to Kevin. So everybody had mixed feelings. The outside, probably inside the building as well, was like, oh, are they really going to do this to us now for playing a conference championship game? But, I think even the narrative from a lot of people around the country nationally had turned to ESPN can't, or not ESPN, but the College Football Playoff can't kill Yeah, conference championship games, because that's what it really would have been. It would have been a Supreme Court style ruling against conference championship games. So I wasn't really sweating it too much. I felt pretty confident, but the old SMU, there have been some moments in the past where they've gotten just screwed over from those type of decisions, and they did not. Now this is the new SMU, as Rhett Lashley says.
Yeah, which we love. And I think it is so fascinating. Like, you just look at this game in general, and you look at the records, you look at both coming off losses in their conference championship games, and yet somehow, some way, one, like, no sweat at all. Oh, we're good. Penn State, oh, we're fine. We're in this thing. And yet here we are with SMU, literally the exact same team, sweating bullets, wondering if they're going to get in. And I've said that, ad nauseum. This committee's putting SMU here to drop them. That's what they're doing. They're going to let us off. They're letting us know their kind of plan, having them at 8, I think it was, wherever they were. That's what they're planning on doing. And it's crazy to me that we'll sit here and say that Penn State's unbelievable win over 19 Illinois back in September is so impressive. And yet we don't give credit to SMU for destroying Pittsburgh when they were at their hottest, for absolutely running through a Louisville team that is super solid, super good team. And yet, these guys get obliterated by, Ohio State, Oregon, and it's like, oh yeah, put them in. No question about it. So it's a fascinating thing to me. And I'm sure that's frustrating for you too, Billy.
Yeah, I think now, and this is maybe something for the future, just in terms of SMU, that now the narrative is going to shift. And Saturday, we'll talk about that game, can go a much farther way to changing how people view SMU. Like, they have an opportunity to beat another giant type of program, a team that's going to mash you. It's going to be cold up there. No one is expecting SMU necessarily to win. I know it's, they're a trendy upset pick, but Penn State has all the pressure in the entire world on him.
Yeah,
James Franklin has not won the big game there very often.
Ever.
Yeah, ever. I was trying to give him a little credit.
No credit. We don't hand out credit. You got to earn it.
Yeah. So, and I think he's built a really solid program, but you've got to kick the door down and win those big games. And SMU has in the past. They came out guns a-blazing against FSU, Louisville, TCU. They really should have beat BYU, Pittsburgh, you mentioned, beating a good Cal team, a BC team. They have stepped up to the challenges this year. And, they started slow against Clemson and it cost them. But this is not a team that should be discounted. They've got speed, they've got dynamic playmakers, they've got great quarterback play usually, and they've got a defense, and defense travels. And if they can pull this off on Saturday, that's where the narrative, I think, not only around SMU, but the ACC shifts up a little bit more. Clemson, Miami, SMU, those type of teams, along with Louisville and some of the others, Georgia Tech, leading the way and showing that, this is obviously a power 3 type of moment to kick that door down. But really, this league is really good. It top to bottom, there's a ton of teams that make bowl games, and they do beat each other up a little bit. But you've got to give credit to beating the teams on your schedule, and SMU did that every single time this regular season in ACC play.
Oh, they absolutely did. And I think, at some point, of course, we talk SEC, Big Ten, the Big Ten getting 4 teams in, getting Indiana in. I just want to see how it all plays out, right? And maybe it will help. That will help the narrative a bit. But to me, at this point, I think it's very clear the ACC is at least the number 3 league. I don't even think it's a discussion between the ACC and Big 12. Some people want to make it that, but I don't see it. I mean, we saw, of course, what SMU did to TCU. And then with the BYU game, if KJ had been starting, who knows? But when you look at this game overall, Billy, I mentioned the weather. It's going to be freezing. I know Rhett Lashley's had to field a lot of questions about that. But you mentioned the SMU defense. So let's start there. Because this Penn State offense maybe played its best game of the season against Oregon. Now, they were having to come from behind, so it was part of the urgency. But Drew Aller is a really capable quarterback. What worries me, if I'm an SMU fan, is Allen and Singleton, the 2 running backs, who each have over 800 rushing yards. What do you make of kind of this defensive matchup for SMU, and what do you expect from the Mustangs up there?
Yeah, I love their running backs. I mean, they're really talented players. But SMU has seen a really good offensive line multiple times this year. They've seen Boston College. They saw Clemson have, the ability to start out fast and stack up some points on them. And, they still held Clemson to under 100 yards rushing. They were able to control BC just enough without Elijah Roberts, I'll add. And then Louisville, outside of, I think, a couple big explosive runs from Isaac Brown, they were able to kind of keep them in check. And the thing about this defense, too, is that they finish really well. The fourth quarter is really their time. They've got that 2 and 3 deep at some parts of that defensive line that rotate. Kobe Wilson, Ahmad Walker, and Alex Kilgore at linebacker. That front 7 is quite honestly maybe second, third best that Penn State's seen all year. But collectively with their depth, I mean, they can control the line of scrimmage. That is, if SMU's going to win this game, then you slow down the run, and you force Drew Aller to beat them because, look, if you can then tee off on him, which SMU has shown this year, that's where they can get home. That's where they can create turnovers, which Penn State doesn't do very often. But that's kind of that formula. You stop the run, force them to be a little one-dimensional. That's not their style, especially in the cold. And I just have a lot of confidence in Scott Simons. I really do. And the offense for SMU's put them in really poor positioning along with special teams against Clemson. And, they hit some explosives. They were able to do some things, and SMU's going to get one of their corners back this week. So I think, Scott Simons has this bad taste in his mouth from last year's Boston College game. He talks about it every time he meets with the media. And talking to people around the program, he's been pretty locked in, not only getting the extension, but about showing what SMU can do. And Rhett Lashley, same way, no one's talking about SMU. It's all about Penn State, quite honestly, and what's going on with their backup quarterback and, how they have the easiest path to the national championship. Well, SMU has found different ways to win. I think they're going to probably have to find that this week, but the defense has to be that constant and set the tone from the get-go.
And it just feels like, Billy, that those guys, even from us, I mean, listen, when we're on the huddle and even KG and I right here, like we're offensive-minded people. That's what we care about. We like the QB, we like the home run. That's what we like to do. We like to score points. But defense does travel. Physicality travels. That mindset is something that you're going to need when it's freezing, when there's 100,000 people in that stands going against you. And I think these guys are going to thrive on that. And quite frankly, SMU is built to stop the run. Now, if this was a 4,500-yard passer, 5,000, I'd be like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But they're not. That's not what they are. And we kind of mentioned it. You're trying to give credit. I'm trying to rip the credit up. They don't win big games. They don't have the ability to do that. And I think SMU has proved they can and that they can compete with anybody. So I like the matchup. I really do. And I think, as you kind of said, not enough people are giving, the Ponies enough credit here. So when I'm looking at this, specifically this defense, man, you have to sell out and really go to Drew Aller and say, can you beat us? Can you line up every single play, and can you make the right decision? And, looking at his games, I mean, he had a massive game in triple overtime against USC, right? Threw for almost 400 yards. Other than that, stats are what they are. I mean, 170 yards is kind of his baseline of what he does, and I don't think that's enough to beat these guys. So, I feel pretty confident in Penn State not being able to accomplish the goals that they want to, and SMU being able to dictate that line of scrimmage. And then, like you said, if they can tee off, if you can get behind the sticks and get into really, adverse situations, look out, because they're going to dial it up and they're going to send pressure. Let's look on the offensive side of the ball, because that's where, again, I've been so confident in them all year that it's interesting to me that I'm not that I'm not, but I am focused on it, because throwing an out route in front of 110,000 people is a little bit different than in 130,000, and it's cold and all those. And Penn State has
26 degrees.
It's a little different, Billy. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I did think that SMU was a little rattled in the ACC championship game, and that was, I don't even know how much. It wasn't full. I mean, it wasn't packed. What are your thoughts on how the environment will play a key? And I know it's a noon game. It's not a night game, thank God.
I do want to say one last bit of info on the defense. Elijah Roberts left off the All ACC team.
Yeah.
He went out in the Clemson game just like he did a year ago against Tulane and had a huge game. Yeah. I still think it's Motivation Monday every day for E-Rob. So anyway, the offense also feeling a little bit of that motivation, though. They got Kevin Jennings locked in long term. It's crazy that we talk about that stuff, but that is off his shoulder. He's been able to focus on this game now. And as Rhett Lashley said, a lot of teams are bombarding this roster trying to get guys that have been able to win games and win or go unbeaten in the regular season in the ACC. This offense has kind of hit a point the last 3 games. So Virginia, Cal, Clemson, where they haven't started fast. They haven't come away with points on an opening drive. Early in the season, they were cooking in that respect. They quieted that crowd right away at Louisville. They were able to do whatever they wanted against Pitt, shut that down. That game could have been 70-something to 20 or whatever it was. But they've got to get back to playing with that type of confidence. And I don't know, and I say this on both sides of the ball for SMU, and not against Clemson, but the game just dictated a different route for them to go to try and win that game. But I felt like the last 2 games of the year, SMU against Virginia and Cal were able to be completely vanilla and really not show that much stuff. I mean, they held Romello Brinson, who's a starting wide receiver, out for basically all of the ACC run so that he could redshirt and come back. Not many teams are able to do things like that. They push for it to be all hands on deck all year long. And this game for SMU, having Romello back, I think he had a really nice showing against Clemson. The wide receivers got to get back on the right side of the drop situation. They had, I think, at least 6 against Clemson. They had 6 the entire year before that game. So that's where the cold may play a factor. But the straw that stirs the drink is going to be Kevin Jennings this game for SMU. And if he gets off to a fast start, which involves getting Brashard Smith, maybe some explosive runs early, establishing that run early, that is going to be the key to maybe moving the ball up and down the field. And I do think in terms of matchup, you look at Kobe King, he's a 6'1", 250-pound all Big Ten linebacker. I mean, thumper, hell of a football player, but SMU has a lot of speed. Yeah. And that type of a player, I mean, who knows? It might not match up well when you're trying to chase guys side to side or trying to get Brashard Smith, while he's wiggling through a hole because he is that explosive. He is that fast. So, and I think the offensive line, they did not play their best game against Clemson, especially in pass protection. And there's a YouTube video out there right now of just 25 minutes of them getting ripped by a former Penn State offensive lineman. I think they're going to look to come out and have their best game of the year. That's going to be important. The main piece, though, establishing the run, hit 35, maybe even 40 rushes in this game, and then let Kevin Jennings do his thing. And I think the nice piece of this is last game against Clemson, all the pressure was in the world was on SMU. Clemson was, not supposed to be there. And SMU, meanwhile, was playing for their playoff life. I mean, which is wild, but it's what it was. This game, no one's expecting SMU to go up there and win, just like they weren't expecting them to beat Florida State like they did or Louisville or whatever. Now they get a chance to maybe get back to what made them so great with that mindset.
Yeah, man, I love all of that. One thing that is interesting to me that, I actually just had to go back while you were kind of bringing it up. It sparked my interest when SMU did play BC, and you're going against Donovan Ezeraku, who All-American, All-World, sack leader in the country. He had 0 against SMU. How do you channel that to Abdul, who is a freak, who is going to be, just a big-time ball player, and is second in the country, or third in the country in tackles for loss, and he's right up there with sacks too. Do you imagine there's some type of plan? Are we chipping Abdul Carter? Are we sliding to him? Again, coming off a game where you're not super confident, but you finished well. You didn't start well, you finished well. Like, what do you see, or plan of attack do you expect there, offensive line wise?
TJ Parker as well, had a lot of pressures and opportunities. He had the strip sack of Kevin Jennings last week against Clemson, but with against SMU for Clemson. But with Abdul, I mean, he is the best defensive player, Rhett Lashley said, they've faced since he's been around this program. I have to go back and fact check, but like, he's right up there. They haven't really faced many top 10 picks, and they've faced first rounders, but this guy is a freak show. And Savion Byrd is pretty athletic. His technique sometimes can, hurt him a little bit. TJ Parker got some good opportunities against him. But over the course of the season, SMU has done some things that really helps them when preparing for certain players against this Penn State team. They've faced Donovan Ezeraku. They've faced TJ Parker. They've faced some other talented edge rushers. Cal's defensive line is really good. They've been able to do some things against certain guys. Louisville, has some dudes over there. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be as much of, oh my God, wow, we are so, screwed that we've got to completely, run, double team, max protect, things like that. And Rhett Lashley doesn't really change for many people. He does some different things and presents things different ways that maybe gives you a little bit of time. But he left Savion Byrd out there a large part of the night against TJ Parker, and eventually Savion settled in and was able to play at a fairly high level, allowing them to, make that comeback. But, in terms of Abdul, I don't know if you chip him. I got to imagine you might do some things. If I was SMU, in terms of running the ball, I'd run right at him. I think that's sometimes the best way if you can run a little trap. Exactly. I know one of the Penn State commenters on YouTube was talking about how Penn State hasn't really seen trap all year, and SMU runs it a good bit. And they'll bring Matthew Hibner, they'll pull a guard, they'll do this, they'll do that. I think that's one of the ways you just blow the whistle and tell them we're coming right at you, and then you can.
You want to set the tone. I love what you. I totally agree, and it's one of those things where you address it because you have to respect him. He's that good of a player. So I'm thinking, first play, if you try to set it up, you're running right at him. Second play, I'm having a tight end or a running back or somebody come out of nowhere and get that rib cage. Just say, hey, we see you, and just let you know we're not afraid. So I think that's, set the tone. Be the aggressor. Not necessarily a full slide or anything of that nature. But I agree with you. And KG, I think that's probably what they'll end up doing.
Billy, let's talk keys here, okay? And of course, we've gotten into a lot of them, but let's give like a few pieces. I'll just give mine. My key in this game for SMU, whatever you did in the second half against Clemson, they looked so good. Kevin Jennings looked so calm. He looked so in charge, but I think the biggest key for them in that second half was tempo. And you've mentioned the size, kind of just the Big Ten-ness, if for lack of a better term, of Penn State. And we've seen over the years, how do you beat the Big Ten? You beat them with speed. And that's what SMU has. So tempo for me is number one. Billy, what do you see as keys here?
Yeah, I love the tempo comment. You look at what Oregon did to them. That's kind of, it's a different presentation, but you've got to build some things off of that. And Rhett talks a lot about being a copycat, league, sport overall. And I think they're going to do some things that maybe they haven't seen this year. And going into the Clemson game, I'll add, there was some packages in there that, Derek McFall, true freshman that they liked, some different guys were coming back into the fold, and they got behind him. We didn't see that. So maybe we see some of that this year or this week. Ball security. It is so simple to just say, take care of the football, run the ball. But for SMU, it really is. You've got to start fast, and that starts by taking care of the ball and being able to run it. And that's where SMU's been at their best this year. Brashard Smith peeling off a 10-yard run, an 8-yard run, picking up another first down in some other way. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they're at the 50 and they're cooking and they've got their full playbook. And I think SMU is going to be fairly aggressive. But the one key for me that maybe is an off the radar, not coach speak, Matthew Hibner. Everybody's talking about Tyler Warren, the great Penn State tight end, which he is awesome. And he does a bunch of different things for Penn State. But Matthew Hibner, the Michigan transfer that caught a touchdown against Clemson, he has been playing lights out football since RJ Maryland went down. I think he maybe had one game where it was kind of like, where's Matthew Hibner? But that team took him away, and SMU ate on the outside. So this game, getting KJ comfortable early, I want to see some short passes to Matthew Hibner, get him involved, get KJ. In a Super Bowl, a lot of coaches talk about, I needed to get my quarterback just rolling with an easy crosser, something that's set up well. We scheme it open and they can hit that, and boom, you're picking up 7, maybe a first down, build that confidence. Matthew Hibner is that way for SMU to build that confidence for KJ.
Yeah.
I like it.
I love that. And I think you're all over it, man. And just, getting the ball out quick and just weather the storm. Like it's going to be loud. It's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be the biggest crowd you've ever seen. How can you take them out? And it's funny enough, we talked to KJ, I believe it was before the ACC championship, and he was just saying how he loves to shut crowds down. Like it's one of his favorite things to just silence that. And let me just tell you, in front of that many, that's going to be a cool feeling. And I think he has that juice. He's the ultimate eraser. He's going to be a guy that absolutely brings it. We can't wait to see it. I'm confident. I think the Ponies have a good shot here. And like you said, if you can replicate some stuff that Oregon did, which you more than are capable of doing that, this offense might be flying around, and it's going to be fun to watch. So we'll see, Billy. I can't wait. Excited
Billy.
for you. You're going.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
Stay warm. Stay warm, my friend.
I'm bringing some Rowback hoodies as a
Atta
third,
boy.
fourth, fifth layer.
Love it.
Well, hey, we appreciate you always, brother. Thank you for your time.
Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Jonathan McGill and Billy Embody for joining us. Both those guys were absolutely fantastic. It was really fun to kind of just truly break down the game with Billy and Jonathan breaking down the defense for us, Mac. Let's talk about this game from an underdog perspective here. Use our code GMPOD, get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And now's the time. Signing up for Underdog during the playoffs and during bowl season is the way to go if you haven't already, which I don't know why you wouldn't have already. When you look at these initial picks here, Mac, for the SMU Penn State game, what draws your eye? What grabs your attention?
Yeah, it's one of those things where the cold is going to matter. It's just how much is it going to matter and where is it going to matter? So Kevin Jennings right now is sitting at 226 and a half. Passing yards, it's not a lot, but it's a lot in the cold. It's a lot if your hands are frozen solid and, you can't catch a football there. So, it's whichever way you think. And do you feel confident that, SMU can run the football and that they're going to run the football and try, typically away games, that's what the model for success is. So do you go lower there? Not disrespect. It's just, it's tough. It's a difficult thing to do. You look at Tyler Warren, a guy, I wish they had receptions because I know they're going to feed him. It's one of those things where if that was on there, you dial it up. He's at 73 and a half, higher, lower. You probably go higher there. Like he's the best player on there.
Higher on that one.
He is going to get the rock. And it's no disrespect to anybody. It's just, they're going to force feed him. And is he going to get a touchdown? Probably, you go there, you feel pretty confident about that as well. Drew Aller's numbers are fascinating. He has rushing yards on there. KJ is too. Both the quarterbacks are really low, 17 and 13 respectively. So if you feel any type of confidence, I think Brashard Smith, though, as we have said all year, he's scoring a touchdown. Like hammer that. If you have like a great run, you feel really good about it, you need a little bonus, hammer that touchdown higher than one. He's going to be able to do it. His all-purpose yards, though, I thought this was fascinating. 107.5 all-purpose in regards to rushing and receiving. That's a big number. But I think he's absolutely that type of weapon where he makes it happen. And then a little bit of inside info, not really if you've been watching the games, but Matthew Hibner there, he's on here as well, and he's got some great bets he actually has receptions, 3.5. Maybe you feel good about that. Middle of the field, getting him the rock, quick, easy passes. Touchdown, that's a little difficult. You get almost double the odds if you do that. If you go higher there, 32.5 receiving yards. I feel pretty good about that. He's been on a tear lately these last handful of games. So there's some great options in here that you can really make happen, KG.
You read my mind, Mac, because here's, I do three. My picks to just have three. I'm not Mac. I'm not crazy, sir. But here's the three I like. The one you didn't mention, or you mentioned KJ, of course, but here's one I like. Kevin Jennings, longest rush, higher than 12.5 yards.
You like that?
For his longest rush. Yeah. I mean, I think he breaks off for something at some point.
Yeah.
Because that's just that. I mean, he's going to have to. I think SMU's going to have to use his legs. Tyler Warren, higher than 0.5 rushing or receiving touchdown. So I think he's going to score. And then Matthew Hibner, higher than 3.5 receptions. That one.
Like that one.
The Hibner, 3.5 receptions. And Kevin Jennings. Like you think Kevin Jennings is not going to have a run over a rush over 13 yards? Like, I think
Let's
that's
look it
going to
up.
happen, Matt.
Let's look it up. Let's look up his longs recently and just do some active research right here. Because, it's one of those things that we've been calling for. I've been sitting here screaming, saying he has to run the ball more. Like, it's just when you look at, quarterbacks and teams that you take it to another level, if you have a guy like that can really make things happen, you feel good about it. And that's kind of what I've been waiting for that to truly be unlocked for him and the things that he's going to be able to do. So I'm getting to the stats here. I'm getting to Kevin.
Look at the Clemson
just to
game.
see his long. Yeah, I mean, that one in particular would be fascinating to know, just his longest rushing. Here we go. 24 against Clemson. You feel good about it. 14 against Cal. 1 against UVA.
He's going to do that.
0 against Pitt. He had no rushing yards against Pitt.
Right. Well, Pitt, of course, they bring. I mean, I guess Pitt, he was getting it out quickly. So what I really liked what Billy
over
said.
12 in a majority of the games. That's a good. That's a good number.
What I really liked what Billy said is how vanilla SMU was able to be against Cal and Virginia. And then against Clemson, they couldn't really use anything special because they got down and they had to get back in the game. I think you're going to see some sort of unique situations for KJ, and I think you're going to have to use his legs, and specifically from a tempo standpoint. Like if you get rolling, you have a great drive going, play breaks down, Jennings rushes for 15. Like I totally see that happening. And I think this game really comes down to Kevin Jennings more than anything. He has to take care of the football. Turnovers have been an issue for him at times. The Duke game, of course, SMU fans don't want to hear about that. In the Clemson game, turnovers were huge. But if he can channel the way he looked in the second half and in the fourth quarter against Clemson, then to me, SMU has a very good chance to win the game.
I agree. I'm all with you. I'm picking the ponies to win.
See.
I think they advance. I think it makes sense. I think that Big Ten speed, lack thereof, that you brought up earlier, I think it's a big deal. I think these guys are going to look really fast out there, and we'll see. It's going to be fascinating. I can't wait.
I struggle to pick SMU to win the game. I think this is such
Texas and Penn State. You anti-homer. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, what's wrong with me? The number's pretty low at 8.5. But okay, weirdly, I think Clemson covers against Texas. I think if you tell me, Mac, which ACC team, if you had to pick one to win, who are you picking? It's SMU. I think that's who I would pick to win. This matchup to me is beneficial. Like it works well for SMU. There's just other factors. There's the 100,000 people. It's 25 degrees. SMU turnovers. SMU has been a very penalized team. Like those types of things don't work on the road.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Say something positive to end our show, please, because I don't want to end it there.
They're going to win. They're going to win.
Okay.
And guess what? They're going to beat Boise State, too. They're going to get all the way down there and play, I think it's the Bulldogs. I think that's the way it goes. Good luck there. But anyway, we'll see. Guys, this was a great episode. Big shout out to Chris Smith making this happen. And, of course, Jonathan McGill. So much fun. And our dear friend Billy Embody. Has been great to have him on the show periodically. We're going to have some more of him coming up. We're going to be doing these recaps of everybody. Billy, get ready. You're coming back on. We got to hear what you think about this season. So anyway, appreciate you guys. It's going to be an awesome playoff. We are so excited to see this thing and see what the ACC can do. Let's do a little damage. If you guys could go over, subscribe, stay on this channel with us, drop some comments, tell us what you think about SMU in this upcoming game and what they're going to be able to do or not do. We'd love to hear that, but appreciate you guys always. And until next time, we'll see y'all.